Welcome to our fourth installment on Jenerik Reptiles YouTube channel. I'm Eric, and today we're going to dive into North American pit vipers. Being that they're the most common venomous reptiles in the United States, it just fits that most people use them as starter species when getting into venomous reptiles, especially because they're so readily available, both wild caught and captive bred. So this video doesn't condone using pit vipers as beginner snakes, especially some of the rattlesnake species, because they are horrible beginner snakes in my opinion. But hopefully it'll give some of you some insight onto some of the species out there that are found in the United States. So without further ado, let's start chatting about pit vipers. So in the United States, we have a couple of different genuses of pit viper. Echistrodon, which encompasses the copperheads and common water moccasins. We have Crotalus, which encompasses a majority of your North American rattlesnakes. And obviously there are some Central American and South American rattlesnakes in the Crotalus species as well. But since we're sticking with just North American, this video will just pertain to that. And Cistrurus, which also has some North American rattlesnake species inside of it. So when we talk about rattlesnakes, depending on the region of the United States you're located in, you can come across several different types of rattlesnakes just on your daily routine. Moving out towards the East Coast, one of the biggest rattlesnake species being the Eastern Diamondback, or Crotalus adamantius. And all the way to the Central and West Coast, Crotalus atrox, which is the Western Diamondback rattlesnake. You have Northern Pacific rattlesnakes, Southern Pacific rattlesnakes, Mojave rattlesnakes, dusky pygmy rattlesnakes, timber rattlesnakes, all different types of rattlesnakes out there. Today, unfortunately, I don't have every single species to speak about of rattlesnake, but I am going to show you two species that I have, both Echistrodon contortrix, which is your common copperhead, and Crotalus atrox, which happens to be my favorite rattlesnake species, or the Western Diamondback rattlesnake. So let's dive into pit vipers a little bit. Most North American pit vipers that you're going to see are defensive snakes. Again, we don't look at snakes as aggressive. Snakes don't come out of the woodwork and start chasing you and try to bite you. Most snakes try to retreat before they become defensive, and will usually only bite when provoked. However, there are some species of rattlesnake that will not run. They will hold their ground, and they will try to intimidate you and scare you away prior to striking. Why rattlesnakes make a poor first choice for venomous keepers that are coming into the hobby? Well, rattlesnakes are very unforgiving. If a rattlesnake is going to strike and you're within range, you are going to get bit. There is no questions asked. They don't allot for second chances. If you are within range of their teeth and they are going to bite, you are going to get hit. They are deadly accurate when it comes to biting people or biting prey. The pits on the front of their face, I guess you could say, you'll see two heat-sensing pits. Those are accurate within minute amount of a degree, and the speed that a pit viper strikes at is incredible. Crotalus atrox, Western Diamondbacks, are known to have a little bit of an attitude. They are known to be more on the defensive side of the rattlesnake species, as to where maybe some timbers found here in Ohio, where I am, and a lot of surrounding states over here in the eastern to Midwest of the United States. While their venom is a little bit different than the Crotalus atrox, they are known sometimes to be a little bit more docile. So either way, rattlesnakes make a very poor choice as a first-time venomous snake getting into the hobby. But on the other hand, hey Lemon, as you guys can hear in the background, someone's unhappy. We're going to bring some of them out in a little while and show them off for you. On the other hand, Echistrodon, some of your copperhead and water moccasin species, could make an okay starter species if that's what you choose. They're a little more forgiving. Still very, very accurate and very fast when it comes to striking. And they all have their own particular temperaments and attitudes. I happen to have a Contortrix or Copperhead that is very mellow. All right, so this is Carl. Carl is my Copperhead snake. Agkistrodon Contortrix is the species. As you can see, Carl is a mature adult. Beautiful, beautiful snake. He is of the spotted variety or spotted morph of Copperhead, so not the typical Copperhead morph you'll see. This isn't typical per se of Copperheads. A lot of them aren't as mellow as this. Sometimes they can also have some attitudes on them. Reading body language on Copperheads is very important. Knowing their body language and knowing their kind of what their next move is going to be. We don't want to get them in a situation where they're going to get up in a strike pose. Again, Carl's a good educational animal. Seems to not stress as much with coming out. However, he does have his moments. Copperheads, when they get angry, they do tend to flick their tail, similar to something that a rattlesnake does, except I don't think they realize that they don't have a rattle. So let's see if we can get a closer look at Carl, just so I could give you a closer look at what their face looks like, what their body looks like, so on and so forth. Carl is about 3 feet long, so I don't mind tailing him, but for the purpose of on camera right now, it'd probably be easier for me to double hook him so I can maneuver him into the camera so you can see. So this is Carl, excuse me, my Copperhead. You can see that beautiful Copperhead he has. You can also see that beautiful spotted pattern he's got on him. Let's see if we can get the camera to focus a little bit. So right now I'm double hooking Carl just because I have to reach across the table, and I always practice safety first, so I'm not going to tail an animal all the way across the table. But just some beautiful colors. Carl came from Miguel Joliffe. I enjoy buying snakes from Miguel. He produces some very quality animals. And this guy is going to be a future breeder for me, hopefully in the short term. So, Copperheads do live in various portions of the United States. Midwest, all the way up in New England, down south. They are a widespread found snake here in the United States. Very common snake. Copperheads like to blend into their surroundings. A lot of times you'll find Copperheads in the wild nestled in the leaves. Sometimes they'll be hiding, but a lot of times they'll be out in the open, and they camouflage extremely well. In fact, the enclosure that I have Carl in right now has a lot of leaf litter, so he can hide. Big believer in giving animals security just like they have in the wild, and trying to imitate their natural behaviors. As you can see, just a very, very docile snake. Do I like Copperheads as beginner venomous snakes? I mean, yeah, they're not a horrible snake to start with. The bites are treatable here in the United States without getting really involved into some exotic antivenoms. As always, getting a mentor is the best way. Finding somebody that can teach you about these snakes and let you handle them before you buy them for a considerable amount of time is always the best move. So don't recommend just going out and buying one. I know a lot of us as kids probably used to catch these guys and bring them home and store them in some glass jars in our house. But they are a dangerous snake. They can still, while death probably isn't imminent these days, especially with modern medicine, limb loss or necrosis of tissue probably isn't beyond the realm of the possibilities on what they're able to do. So, as always, handle all venomous animals with care. But this is Carl. Carl's the Copperhead. Now we're going to move into some Crotalus. The only Crotalus species that I have today that we're going to go through is going to be the Atrox. I do have quite a few Atrox in my collection, and I'm going to start with some babies and kind of move up and show you the progression of their size as they become adults. So, again, we're going to put Carl up, but for a last look, this is Carl, your Agkistrodon Contortrix or Copperhead snake. And Carl is out. All right, so moving right along. This is a juvenile Crotalus atrox, not very old. That's why she is going to stay inside of her little bucket here. If I put her on the on top of the table, she's gonna probably go crazy on top of it, and we're gonna try to avoid that. So she is a hypermelanistic, so not blacked out completely, still has some pattern left, but definitely much blacker than you will see some of the standard Atroxes. And let's just see if I can get you a picture of her real quick. This is her. Came from my friend Sarah down in Texas. She produces some beautiful Crotalus atrox rattlesnakes. So I love Crotalus atrox. They are almost like the new ball python. Love their attitude. Love what you're dealing with when you get them. You can hear this little guy rattling right now. But when I say they're like the new ball python, these guys are starting to come in some crazy morphs. This one again is hypermelanistic, but anything from bubblegum, which has some beautiful shades of pinks and yellows and purples, some crimson colors. The next guy you're going to see, my rattlesnake Roger. And some of you guys may be asking, you know, why do you name your snakes? I don't name my snakes except for my venomous ones. In the state of Ohio, when they come to inspect you, all your snakes must have a name. So, figured what's better than giving all of our snakes really easy human names. Like Scott and Roger and Jim and James and Kevin. I mean, who's going to be afraid of a rattlesnake named Kevin? So, again, this is a hypermelanistic Crotalus atrox. I believe this one right now is probably in the 7 to 8 month area. Didn't hatch that long ago, but very vocal with its rattle. Starting to get a little more defensive as it grows up. Again, with babies, as with any baby snake, venomous or not, they tend to be pretty quick and very flighty. So a little difficult for me to take her out and kind of put her out. But let me see if I can get you a better picture of her on camera here. You all can see just what she looks like here. Beautiful girl. Love her to death. Love the way she looks. But she's not coming out on the table today because I don't feel like chasing her around the room. So, Crotalus atrox, found in the central to western United States. Very dry climate rattlesnake. They are probably the attitude of the rattlesnake world. Very defensive most of the time. Can inflict a nasty bite. Responsible for quite a few rattlesnake bites throughout the United States. The atrox is. Not for the faint of heart as a first-time snake owner, especially venomous. They are a little difficult to deal with, being that they are so defensive in the rattlesnake world. So there's definitely a lot of species out there that are more well-suited to beginners. Unfortunately, people pick them as beginners because they're so readily available. And again, just as copperheads, some of you may have caught these guys back when you were little and put them in jars or in fish tanks inside your room, but the western diamondback can inflict a nasty bite, and their venom is definitely nothing to play around with. Treatable the same way as the copperhead is, same antivenoms, but lot more defensive than the copperheads are. So we're going to move into our next rattlesnake. Same thing, Crotalus atrox, but we're going to start to move up in size a little bit in age. Just so we can see kind of size progressions and a couple of different morphs. So next up, I think we're going to bring out Roger. All right, as always, when we're opening bins, we want to know where the snake is, and we're going to use the top of the bin as a shield. God forbid the snake shoots out, we're going to be covered, we don't get bit. So, let me introduce everybody here to Roger. Roger is another Crotalus atrox. Roger is of the tangerine variety, a form of albinism. Another beautiful guy. Roger's got a broken rattle, so he doesn't rattle very good. So, as you can hear, that's not his rattle you hear in the background. That's Lemon, my little bigger girl here. So this is Roger. Roger isn't very defensive for an atrox. He's actually a pretty good boy. We're going to try to keep him here in the middle of the table just so everybody can take a look at him. And pardon me if I'm trying to talk and control him at the same time, but my safety comes first. So I'm just making sure that I've got complete control over him and he's not going off the side of the table. Great thing with these rattlesnakes is they don't mind taking a plunge off the side of a table. They're kind of fearless. So You can see Roger's getting a little unhappy. He's starting to rattle his little rattle or whatever he's got left. But Roger is closer to 1.5 years old, Crotalus atrox. As you can see, he doesn't mind going off the side of the table just as he just did. About 1.5 years old, close to 2. He does have a broken button on him, or 2. He's actually got 2 broken buttons on him, so his rattle isn't as distinctive as say Lemon, who's my bigger rattlesnake I have here. But you can see his beautiful coloring. That coloring is just amazing. His shades of oranges and whites. Again, tangerine's a form of albino. Just what the wording says, looks like a tangerine. He is also het for scaleless. Don't know if I want to produce any scaleless atroxes. I don't know if they really do anything for me. But just another example of a nice Crotalus atrox. Pretty mellow for an atrox. He's getting a little irritated now just because he's a little scared. But believe it or not, for the time I've had Roger, he's never struck at me at all, even being defensive. He gets in his defensive pose, but usually he retreats. He doesn't stand his ground, and it makes him a very, very easy snake to work with. You can just see how I'm working with him here. He's just very, very easy to work with right now. I don't know if I can get him closer to the camera. Unfortunately, when atrox are this small, it does make it difficult to work with them and get them on a hook, just because they are like squiggle worms. So this is Roger right here. So he's starting to kind of get the hook thing a little bit. Let's see if we can get him in for a little close-up shot of his head. There we go. So again, they don't mind falling off the hook and moving down onto the floor. I don't know why they're fearless like that, but they are. So some albino morphs have been found out in the wild. I don't know if the tangerine morph itself has been a wild-caught morph. I think this is something that people have bred out of them. Again, you can see Roger, as defensive as he is, he's not a very big striking snake, so very, very good atrox, and I'm growing him very slowly. Hopefully I'll start gaining some size on him very soon. He's probably about doubled in size, maybe about 25 or 30% bigger since I've had him. Very, very good eater. All right, well, we're going to move on to our last rattlesnake, which is going to be the biggest of my atrox right now, and also the most defensive. So we'll see what the deal is with Lemon. So thank you all for meeting Roger. We're going to go ahead and put Roger away now and let him get back in his home. Okay. I need you to go ahead and get it going. Okay. So this is Lemon. Lemon is a very, very defensive atrox, as you can see. She doesn't take any time wasting to get up and rattle. I'm gonna let her mellow out for a second here and see how she feels. Mellow is an albino Crotalus atrox. She's about 4 feet long. You can see wastes no time with her rattle. Always rattling in and out of the room. It doesn't matter where we are in the room. She is just a defensive snake, and really the spawn of Satan. And I say that as a joke. These snakes are known for that, and she's the perfect example of an atrox that's just not a happy snake. You can see that tongue flicking and just the consistent flicks that she has. Reading atrox body language is definitely something you want to do with these snakes, and that's why I keep my distance. Rattlesnakes have the ability to strike 2/3 of their body, so you can see with her tongue flicks and everything. She's not shooting up into an S yet, but her tongue is moving, and she is starting to get a little bit more defensive. So, as I stated, reading these guys' body language is paramount, and knowing how to handle them and what to do. So. You can see, there you go, there's the characteristic S. And I'm back! Sorry. As I've told everybody in my past videos, the safety of me and my animals comes first, and Lemon unfortunately didn't feel like being out anymore. Started getting a little excessively defensive. So in that case, I don't force her to stay on camera. This is more for your education, and it's not for her enjoyment. So went ahead and put her back in her enclosure. Again, venomous snakes weren't made to be showpieces or educational animals that could be held at zoos and everything. They're still wild animals, and they're definitely not domesticated. So fortunately, they didn't always cooperate, and that's okay. At least you guys got to see her and kind of see some size progression. So in closing, hope you all enjoyed this video. Just gives you a little insight into some copperheads and rattlesnakes. Again, there's tons and tons of species in rattlesnakes across the United States. All the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. And North and South America are the only places in the world where you'll find any type of rattlesnake. All your Crotalus species are located on North and South America, or excuse me, in North and South America. There are pit vipers in other parts of the world, but definitely not Crotalus rattlesnakes. No snakes that have rattles on their tails. But definitely some pit vipers located throughout Asia, throughout Africa, and they share similar traits as their relatives, but not the distinctive rattle that some of these snakes have. So, hope everybody enjoyed the video. Hope to see you on the next episode. Thank you very much, and have an excellent night. Bye-bye.